All right. So, the critical drinker. Now, the critical drinker doesn't need an introduction. This is a person who understands the mechanics of storytelling, whether it's a book, movie, television. His enthusiasm for film is what I connected to, talking about movies that really nobody really ever talks about. A lot of folks are just busy talking about the MCU and everything else that really truly, I mean, I guess it's relevant, but there's a thousand plus videos that you can find on Thor Love and Thunder. I'd rather talk about Aliens, Beverly Hills Cop, 48 Hours, Trading Places, Rambo, Big Trouble, Little China, RoboCop, Terminator 1 and 2. I mean, these are films that I don't see anybody talking about. So this person, I mean, I do see now several channels that do talk about classic films, but a lot of people are obsessed with free access, so they want to be their own entertainment tonight. I tend to lean on people who are just people that I could probably sit down with, have a drink, smoke a joint with, and just shoot the shit about movies. And that's what the critical drinker is. And this is also a person who's very honest. And there is a small percentage of people, despite what you see on Twitter or on social media, having these long threads. I mean, it's really a small percentage of people that don't like him because facts are growth. So, anyway, he did a video on Indiana Jones 5, the Dial of Destiny. Is that I don't fucking know. Remember what the title is. The Indiana Jones 5 trailer. He talks about it in the sense that the leaks that I mentioned in my reaction video. Uh, that's why I asked at the end of the video if am I the only one that feels this way? No. And I'm glad to see that the critical drinker, which I haven't seen him talk about Indiana Jones 5 at all, really. So I'm surprised that he has read the leaks. And when I saw the title, The Rumors Are True, I said, I have to watch this. I have to watch this and I have to react to it. I want to share this with you guys because I am a fan of his page. I'm not sure if he cares or not, like if this will offend him because this is his video, just respect. So let's watch this video from the critical drinker and discuss. Let's discuss. All right, here we go.
You know, when it comes to movies, I don't tend to put a whole lot of stock in rumours, leaks, and hearsay these days. So when I heard all kinds of crazy stories from behind the scenes of Indiana Jones 5 about ridiculous time travel plots, old Indy meeting young Indy during World War II, which ultimately changes his own personal history and blinks him right out of existence so he could be replaced by a newer, more diverse Indiana Jones written for the modern audience, I was inclined to dismiss it as just another piece of wild speculation. Because let's be real here, YouTube and bullshit go hand in hand most of the time. Then the first trailer for the film finally dropped last night, and when it was over, I was struck by a simple and stark realization. Oh god, the rumors were true.
Same. Just a second here. I felt the same way when I started. It was when you started to see the de-aging of Indiana Jones and knowing that that was in the leaks. So are other things, even the ending. Yeah, I was watching it. I mean, you could see in my reaction that I was towards the end, I believe. Yeah, I was just like, I'm out. I'm out. I mean, I'm somewhat out. I'm not completely dismissing it, but Lucasfilm, come on, dude. Seriously.
I mean, the very notion of doing a fifth Indiana Jones film more than a decade after Crystal Skull seemed like a pretty bad idea right from the start.
Yeah.
Say what you will about that movie and the wisdom of casting Shia LaBeouf,
Do it!
but it at least felt like it brought Indy's story to a satisfying conclusion. Yeah, he was definitely showing his age in this one, but he was still able to hold his own when it counted.
Did you guys like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? I mean, like, honestly, I mean, there's this echo chamber, and it's the popular opinion, if you want to be part of the cool club, to say that the movie is terrible. It ruins everything. Now, listen, if you are a true fan of this franchise and you really believe that this movie was terrible, that's one thing. But it's another thing when I remember a couple years ago, people went online and they did their little Indiana Jones countdown for whatever reason. And people were like, "Whoa, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull." And it's like, okay, I've seen worse movies. I've seen worse movies. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker are terrible films. All of those movies, okay, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I would watch 10 times over, okay, than The First Awakens. So, it's just like, come on. It is the weakest of the Indiana Jones films, but it's nowhere near a terrible, horrible film that will fucking cripple your childhood. Just don't watch it.
allowing him to make a dignified exit without becoming a complete embarrassment. He was finally married to the love of his life, and we'll forget about the slightly questionable start to their relationship.
I never meant to hurt you.
I was a child. I was in love. He was wrong and you knew it.
He'd gone on one final adventure and he was ready to settle down. And
I've never really thought about that. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I feel like, is the fan film that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg experimented with to see if it could work again. The people have responded. Look at the reception on that film. I personally have never really gone back to watch it. I think I've seen it probably 3 times. I've seen Raiders more so than anyone could count. If it was a VHS still, I'd have to probably go through 3 copies of those because I ruined the tape. All right, let's continue.
put all that stuff behind him, enjoying his autumn years with the woman that he loved. And there was even a strong implication that his son was getting ready to follow in his footsteps and carry on his father's legacy. Like I say, it wasn't great, but it was enough to get the job done, and it really felt like that was the end of the road for Indiana Jones. Rumours of a fifth film did the rounds for a couple of years before George Lucas wisely concluded that he was out of ideas and gave up on the project. Unfortunately, he made the crushingly terrible mistake of signing the rights over to Disney, who are always on the lookout for another legacy IP to strip mine for every dime they can get.
Yep.
How's that Willow remake working out for you guys? And once
By the way, on a side note, Willow is terrible. Terrible. I'm contemplating whether I want to review it or not, because it's so fun to now finally just kind of grill on something that it's like, it's one thing when Disney screws up on something, you're like, you know what, it's fine, I'll give it a pass, whatever. It's just been too much now. It's become a thing where, like, Disney is like, hey, we want to be made fun of. And so I don't know, but it's such a terrible show. Like, I don't even want to watch it, but uh, you know, who knows? It could be better. It could get better. I don't know. It's all I know is that it's a better show than The Rings of Power, but that's not saying much. It's a CW show in a Disney Plus app. It's weird. All right.
they'd finished crushing the life out of Star Wars, it was sadly inevitable that they would set their sights on a new victim. And so, here we find ourselves staring down the barrel of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, it's just stupid.
What the fuck is a Dial of Destiny?
Yeah.
Is it like some gigantic rotary phone that gives you a hotline to God? Nah, whatever. The point is, this movie's been at the center of a swirling cloud of speculation and rumor for a couple of years now, with a bunch of insider leaks and revelations helping to flesh out the story. And what they had to say didn't sound good. An elderly Indiana Jones from the late 1960s discovers a magical device and ends up traveling back through time to World War II to stop a group of bad guys from changing the course of history. He's accompanied by a young female professor who becomes the sidekick for the bulk of the story and ends up running into a younger version of himself. And when that version is forced to sacrifice himself to stop the bad guys, old Indiana Jones is erased from existence, and the young female professor has to take up his mantle and continue her stunning and brave adventures on a Disney Plus show. And now that I've seen the trailer and had a good chuckle at the laughably bad CGI work, seriously, you could at least make his head line up with his body.
That shot of Indiana Jones on the horse, he looks like Frank Drebin from Naked Gun. It's terrible, man. Oh man, like I said, this movie, it needs to be successful. It really does. There's no halfways. There is no, well, no. It has to be successful. It really does. It's Indiana Jones. Get real. Come on.
And the incredible gunplay on offer. Nice shooting, guys. I often like to fire at the wall directly behind a person that's just ducked out of sight. Not to mention the Star Wars references that are about as subtle as a rainbow-coloured battle tank. I'm forced to conclude that those rumours all sound shockingly plausible now. I mean, I'll say one thing, the trailer gets off to a decent start by showing us Indy and Salah back together again for the first time since Last Crusades.
That was cool.
Seriously, it was an absolute crime leaving him out of Crystal Skull. Although I have to say, what's with this weird modern trend of rehashing classic theme songs as slow, mournful piano numbers? Like we're sitting there on the toilet depressingly reminiscing about the faded glory of the old franchise when we were still young and it was actually fun and exciting, while staring into the bottom of a half-drunk bottle of cheap whiskey and wondering whether or not to stick a sharpened pencil up our nose and headbutt the table. Wait, what? Anyway, we know for sure that a digitally de-aged Harrison Ford is heavily featured in the trailer, as well as multiple scenes that are clearly taking place in the 90s.
So that was Antonio Banderas. I remember watching the trailer. I didn't want to mention anything, but I was looking at that. Just thinking about it. I was like, who was that guy who looked like Antonio Banderas? Then shortly after I finished the video and uploaded it, I read somewhere online that it was Antonio Banderas. He does have a small cameo in the movie. So yeah, I wasn't going insane. But all right, let's go. Continue.
1940s, and unless this is all a cheeky little pre-credits flashback scene, which is pretty unlikely since we see Indy in multiple outfits, locations, and times of day, it seems pretty likely that time travel is the best explanation here. And if you're ever in doubt about the thinking behind modern movies, simply apply Drinker's Razor. All things being equal, the dumbest explanation is usually the correct one. And by golly, this all just gives me a big old dose of the sad. Apart from the obvious example, name me one movie franchise where time travel has been introduced and it actually turned out to be a smart, well-implemented plot mechanic. Oh, wait. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can certainly understand their reasoning behind such a desperate move. Having an elderly Indiana Jones mooching around in the late 1960s with its roughly contemporary technology levels and social attitudes is so far removed from his classic adventure serial roots that it would be like having a Star Wars movie set in a BDSM club. Actually, that sounds pretty awesome now that I think about it. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull proved that the Soviets weren't particularly interesting antagonists because they didn't embody the same level of outright evil as the Nazis or this guy.
Facts.
Yeah, they were definitely ruthless and willing to do bad things, but the film couldn't really invite you to hate them as easily or completely as the baddies from the earlier movies. And let's be real here, the idea of modern Hollywood having the balls to portray communists as the bad guys is about as plausible as Kathy Griffin saying something that's actually funny. So I guess time travel was the quickest and easiest way to bring back all that lovely stuff they wanted so badly. A young Indy that can still kick ass, evil villains that are easy for the audience to hate, unless they happen to be Kanye West, of course, and a setting that's much more in keeping with the Indiana Jones aesthetic. The problem is that time travel is a big old narrative can of worms that you open up at your peril, because once it's open, it's very difficult to close again.
Yep.
And it also leaves you vulnerable to a whole lot of questions that usually don't have any satisfying answers.
I watch a lot of Doctor Who. That is a show predicated on time travel. So they're very careful for the most part. I mean, with the exception of the last 3 seasons and a couple specials, where they manage to try to avoid as many holes as possible. But with time travel, it's very, very difficult, which is why you can't just willy-nilly just put it on a script and just, oh, it's legitimate. It has to make sense. Believe the unbelievable is what I say. So
basically, time travel is the nuclear option as a writer. It's the thing you do when you can't think of anything else to do. And if you want an example of how messing with previous events can absolutely nuke a movie, then just take a look at Terminator Genesis. The
Yeah.
other big source of concern here is Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Oh,
I
God.
can't exactly say I was surprised by this character's inclusion when this is a project directly overseen by Kathleen Kennedy, whose one and only creative impulse with anything she's involved in seems to be, hey, what if we replace this character with a woman? Great idea, Kathy. Shall we make her flawed, vulnerable, complex, and sympathetic so she can learn important lessons from the older male mentor character before he passes on, thus delivering an emotionally satisfying character arc that
Yeah.
leads the transition? You're fired.
Yeah,
It just feels
exactly.
so forced.
Exactly. Yeah, in Disney, there's no such thing as character growth.
And unnecessary. We already established a younger character for Indy to pass the hat on to with his previous movie. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf might not have been the best choice to play him, but given how much time has passed since the last film, you could easily have recast the character and nobody would have cared too much. But I guess the idea of a positive father-son relationship as the emotional heart of a modern film just isn't right for modern audiences. So naturally, Mutt had to be replaced with a more diverse alternative.
Fuck.
Why? Because it simply wouldn't be a modern film unless an established and beloved male lead was killed off and replaced by a shallow, vapid, flawless, and unlikable female character that you're expected to instantly like and project all that hard-won emotional attachment onto. Or else. Believe it or not, this isn't our first rodeo when it comes to this kind of thing. In fact, gender swapping the lead characters in popular legacy IPs has become so cliched and tiresomely predictable that it's practically a meme at this point. And yet, here we are, pushing ahead with the same losing strategy like the endless flops and failures of the past 10 years are all
Yep.
completely unconnected. No, it's the audience that's wrong, don't you see? My one tiny source of optimism for this movie is that it's at least got some talented people working on it. The writers were responsible for Edge of Tomorrow and Ford vs. Ferrari, both fantastic movies, and James Mangold's directed some of the few genuinely good movies of the past several years. But then again, as past experience has taught us, even good writers and directors can still produce shit films if they're not given the creative freedom they need. And I get the distinct impression that this is the kind of movie that was mandated and largely controlled by the studio.
Example given, Sam Raimi for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. If Disney, Kevin Feige just left him the fuck alone and just gave him the keys and said, we'll see you in a couple of months during post-production, um, we would have a completely different movie than what we were given this year. I'm just saying, Sam Raimi, director of Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, Darkman, Drag Me to Hell. Come on, that's the best he could. No, it's not his fault. He was casted. He wasn't hired as a director. There's a difference.
After a series of extremely expensive flops, Lucasfilm and Disney really need this one to succeed. And if
Yeah.
the other rumors I've heard about the disastrous test screenings turn out to be correct too, well, then I suggest you strap in, because the dial tone of Density is going to be a fucking wild ride when it comes out. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Go away now. All right. I love that. I love Drinker. He's great. I think he's fantastic. All his videos are great. I mean, if you're watching me, you know who he is. Okay. Um, and if you're not subscribed to him, please go on and do so. What are you doing? Um, okay. So everything that he's pretty much displayed there in that video are facts, and they are genuine concerns. They are not, well, he's dismissing this. He's just a hater, like everyone on social media would say, because they don't know any other words in the dictionary to express their opinion. So, uh, yeah, the leaks. If you have read the leaks, I'm not going to describe what the leaks are, but if you have read the leaks, there is definitely genuine concern. And when you think that, James Mangold, when he was trying to debunk, rumors that Phoebe Waller-Bridge was going to replace Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, my guess is that they had a test screening or something happened to where people didn't like it. And this is where I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, perhaps. People didn't like it. People didn't respond to it. They know the backlash that is going to occur. I think that they've probably wised up a little bit. They won't admit that. No, hell no, they won't admit that. James Mangold has thin skin, and that is clear on social media. When this guy could just shut the fuck up or delete his account and just not engage with people because you start to look a little juvenile. And that reflects upon your project that you are undertaking. You are in charge of a massive franchise and you are engaging with s- people on Twitter over nothing. Poor Matthew Caddish. He got yelled at by James Mangold simply because he had a genuine concern when he could have just said, "Hey, listen, I know your worries. I've seen the last one also, but I promise you we're going to deliver a movie and you guys are going to love it." That's all you have to fucking say. You don't engage with people. Okay? It makes you look unprofessional. Okay? And remember, the customers, the people who pay to watch these movies, the money that goes into these studios, they are your customers. Okay? But they're also your boss. Think about that. Without them, you wouldn't have a job. Without them, the studio wouldn't be open. So people have to kind of think about that. And I'm not the only one that's saying that. Okay. I mean, Gary from Nerdrotic, he used to be a business owner. And if you have watched his channel and when he periodically talks about those things, it's very true. The customers are your boss. Without them, you ain't got a job. So it's like and then there's this whole like toxic fandom, that whole word toxic fandom. You need to retire that shit because it's not toxic fandom. These are people that have loved something for so long and have spent their hard-earned money. Okay, people have to work for a living. People don't want to go to work. Okay, but people have to sacrifice an entire day, sometimes 4 to 5. uh they can't see their kids, they can't see their loved ones, they can't have dinner with them, they can't have lunch with them. Sometimes people have to work on holidays. We all work and do stuff that we probably don't like doing, so that way we can go out and pay for the shit that we like or that we want. And then for a studio to turn around or a director to go on social media and say that these aren't fans or imply that everybody who is just has an opinion or a concern is toxic. Like, guys, come on. So yes, the legitimate concern about this movie is that it will be terrible. I don't think it will be terrible. I hope it's not terrible. I hope that they probably uh reshot whatever it is. I don't want to spoil what the leaks are at the end, but if they stick with that ending and Disney's going to put their foot down and go, "No, we're brave and stunning," then you're going to lose. Look at what's happening with Disney right now. They don't want to admit it. They don't want to admit it, even though Bob Chapek a couple of weeks ago, before he was terminated from his position as the CEO, was doubling down on how great Disney's doing. Okay, well, dude, you got fired in the middle of a concert on a Sunday night, and the architect of Disney's destruction returned. So I don't know where the success is at. The Marvel movies aren't doing as well as they used to, no matter what. Look, Marvel fans are still going to fight to the death and go, "See, these numbers are good." No. Um, this movie needs to be a hit. It needs to make $1 billion. I know that sounds like a lot. Like, oh man, well that's a little too much. Spider-Man: No Way Home made $1 billion. Top Gun: Maverick made $1 billion. If Indiana Jones 5 and the Dial of Destiny can cross $1 billion, I will shut the fuck up and eat shit, and I will proudly admit that I was wrong, and I'm happy as well because we need a really good Indiana Jones movie. And unfortunately, I'm not feeling it. This ain't it. I feel like this movie shouldn't even be made, but whatever. It's made, it's there, it's coming out, and all we can do is hope for the best. So, and yeah, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. My God, guys, thank you so much for watching this video and for watching along with me here, the Critical Drinker. And I will be back. And please go ahead, subscribe, share this video, and go ahead and, yeah, you know, be merry, be safe. And I hope that we can get better movies in the future, man, because this is just, we live in a timeline where an Indiana Jones trailer came out, and a lot of people weren't really that impressed. There was some people that were happy because they got to hear the Indiana Jones theme and got to see it. That's fine, but it's like, ugh, I don't know. 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 But anyway, all right. Well, that's it for me for today. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye. Indy.